Hi friends, I'm Chelsea and I am here with my spring TBR and book recommendations. So I had planned to film this video a week ago, but I got sick and you can probably still hear the stuffiness in my voice, but I'm feeling a little better and trying to catch up on life. So here we are a week late with my spring book recs and TBR video. I did a video like this in the fall, I believe. I think I did a couple different fall themed videos. One was with my book recommendations and one was my TBR, and I just wanted to combine my book recs and TBR for this spring. I'm not planning to do a TBR video for April or May because I'm feeling a little burnt out by doing a set TBR every month, and I just want to give myself a little more freedom this spring and just try to mood read a little bit. But I do have a list of books that I want to read. I'm going to try to get to most of those, but otherwise just kind of keep it pretty open and flexible for myself. And then I do have several books that I think are great ones to pick up for spring. If the weather's starting to warm up for you and the sun's coming out and flowers and nature and all that, I think a lot of these books will feel perfect for this time of year. I also have my mushroom earrings on. I don't know if you can see these, but these felt perfect for spring. I'm kind of obsessed. Anyway, so I'm going to tell you my spring book recommendations first, and then I'll tell you some of the books on my spring TBR. These are in no particular order and kind of a mix of genres, just books that I thought represented spring pretty well. So this first one is a middle grade classic that I read last year and I really loved it. That is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. I still need to get a physical copy, but I don't have it yet. Most people have probably either heard of this or read the book. I listened to the audiobook. It was an Audible exclusive maybe back when I had Audible, and it's narrated by Rachel McAdams, and it was a really good audiobook. I'm sure you know about this one. It's about a little girl named Anne who is an orphan. She lives on Prince Edward Island. She is then adopted by a brother-sister pair, and they're not super excited about it because they thought that she was going to be a boy, but they still take her. And then it kind of just goes through their relationship forming, becoming a family, and her growing up, going to school, making new friends. Just a really heartwarming coming of age story. Anne is very funny, very independent, free-spirited, precocious, and just a very likable character. I loved the writing in this book. It was very beautiful and descriptive, and it just felt like an ode to nature. And it does take place throughout the whole year, so not just springtime, but it just gave me a greater appreciation for nature, and Anne loves being out in nature, and so for springtime I really feel like books that have beautiful descriptions of the outdoors and nature in general, that just really feels fitting for springtime. So that definitely stood out to me in this book. Anne is just such a whimsical and free-spirited girl, and she has really a new beginning in this book, so all of those reasons just make it feel like a really good springtime book for me. So if you're looking for like a fun and easy classic to pick up this spring, I definitely recommend Anne of Green Gables. Another one that I recommend is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. Just look at this cover, all the flowers, anything with lots of florals is gonna make me think of spring. This is a contemporary romance rom-com type feel. I've read a couple books by this author and I really enjoyed them. Now it's been a couple years since I've read this book, so I'm not super fresh on like the plot or the characters. Like a lot of it's kind of foggy in my memory, to be honest, but I do remember having a really fun time. This follows two main characters. You know, it's a romance, so that makes sense. The female main character, she is a bodyguard, hence The Bodyguard. She is hired to protect this really famous actor named Jack Stapleton, and he has a stalker, and so he's trying to like lay low. I think he has to go home to Texas to help his sick mother, and he's also just trying to hide out from this stalker because he's really famous. And so he gets assigned to Hannah, this female bodyguard. She is pretending to be his girlfriend as a cover, so we have a fake dating situation. Yeah, it's just a really fun, heartwarming romance. It is closed door, so if you want something with no spice, this is a great option. Just feels like a really nice, lighthearted pick for the warmer months. It could work for summer too, but because it has flowers, I'm saying spring. And I just remember laughing a lot and really enjoying the romance and the writing and having a really fun, easy time with this. So definitely recommend this contemporary romance. Another one, which is probably on everyone's spring recommendations list, so nothing super revolutionary, but it just screams spring to me, and that is Tom Lake by Anne Patchett. Another really good audiobook. This one's narrated by Meryl Streep. So we have another like celebrity audiobook narration. Very much enjoyed that. And this is just classic literary fiction, very slow-paced, character-driven, and just a lovely family story. So this one takes place during 2020, actually, like during the pandemic, and that's part of the book. And in this family that we follow, there are 3 daughters, and their family owns this cherry farm in northern Michigan, I believe, and they all come home to, hide out during the pandemic. And they spend a lot of time with their parents, but especially their mom, and she just tells them her story, pretty much her history. They don't really know much about her past. She was an actor back in the day, and she shared this kind of wild, passionate romance with this man who is not their father, so it was like another life, and they are learning about her past and what happened, and there are lots of moments of them kind of reflecting on their lives as well, not just her life. It's just very, again, character-based, lots of meditations about family and life and love and just different relationships. Very beautiful writing, and definitely has the spring atmosphere and setting. The story doesn't necessarily stand out in my head as like an amazing plot, but just beautiful writing and atmosphere and a very family and relationship centered story that I recommend. So another one that I also don't own but I really enjoyed is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, same author as the Letters of Enchantment duology. This one is called the Elements of Cadence duology. I've only read the first book. I'd like to read the second book, but the first book, A River Enchanted, I really enjoyed. So this is like cozy, lyrical type fantasy, and it's inspired by Celtic folklore, I believe. So it takes place on this island called Cadence. It's very much ruled by different elements and different like river spirits. There's this very like elemental and whimsical magic that is a part of this whole island. And the main character, Jack Tamerlane, or one of the main characters, we really follow 4 characters, but we start out with Jack, who is a musician, and he has not been on the island for a while. He's from there, but he is called back when these young girls start disappearing from the isle. Only his power or his musical skills can convince the spirits to return the girls. And he is called back to the island, and he is paired with Adara, who is his childhood enemy, but they come together and they're trying to work to get these girls back. There's definitely a romance here. And there's also another couple, they're an older couple. They're also residents of the island, and they are attached to this case as well. So we have kind of 2 different romances going here. Very beautiful, emotional romances that I really enjoyed. And I just loved the atmosphere of this book. It's very lush, very lyrical, lots of elements of music and magic, just very based in nature. A lot of these books will have that in common with it being a springtime recommendations video. I just love Rebecca Ross's writing, the way she forms characters and intertwines that with the magic and the atmosphere. And this is another great audiobook because they have these beautiful like Irish and Scottish accents. I think it's actually Scottish accents. Sometimes it's hard for me to tell the difference, but great audiobook for this one as well. And I do want to read the second book sometime, so I don't know about that one, but I've heard that that one's even better. So definitely check out the Elements of Cadence duology. One that I actually own and I definitely recommend for spring is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. This is a magical realism story with a little bit of a mystery and some romance, and definitely a very family-focused story. So this one follows the main character, June. She lives in a fictional town in North Carolina. Her family owns this flower farm, and there's also this mysterious curse that has plagued all the women in her family pretty much. And so there's something going on with that, and also her mother disappeared years back, and so she's trying to figure out what all is happening, if there's any connection with the curse and her mother's disappearance. And then she starts seeing things that aren't there, hearing things, and wondering if this curse is coming for her too. Then one day this red door just appears, like on the farm or somewhere outside, and she is beckoned to come near it and to walk through it. And then a whole lot of things happen. No spoilers. There is definitely a time travel element to this book. I wouldn't call this sci-fi. It's just very magical realism and not a ton of explanations with everything that happens. Another one with great atmosphere, beautiful writing, very much rooted in nature with this flower farm and being in the mountains of Western North Carolina. Another one that's kind of on the slower side with more character focus and just beautiful descriptive writing and atmosphere. It's definitely one that will leave you with some questions, but this is one that I just really enjoyed the experience of reading, just soaking up everything that I could from this book. And this writer has a great ability to really plant you in the setting and help you just imagine everything so vividly. Definitely recommend. I keep saying that. This is going to get repetitive, but I do recommend this one for the springtime. Another one that I think you should check out this spring is Wayward by Amelia Hart. I mean, just look at that cover. It definitely screams springtime. Lots of nature, flora, flora, fauna, kind of a cottagecore vibe if we're going with that term. So this one is historical fiction, but with some magical realism, again, kind of fantasy, also kind of a literary feel. So kind of similar to June Farrow in that we have a mix of genres here. And so this follows 3 different sisters at different times in history. So I think one is in the 1600s in Scotland. This is the oldest timeline, and we have kind of a witch trial feel. She has some magical powers that are being manifested, and being that this is in the 17th century, people are noticing and are scared of it because it's like witchcraft and dangerous and all that. So we follow her story, and then we have a 1940s, so like World War I or World War II. I'm not great with my dates apparently. Another member of this family wants to be educated, but she's kind of trapped in this pattern of women not getting education and not having as much autonomy as the men in their family, and so she is trying to find a way out. And she finds some like family items that have been hidden and that force her to go down this trail of searching and trying to discover things from her family history. And then we also have a present day character who is in London, and she flees London because I'm pretty sure her boyfriend is abusing her. She flees to this cottage in the woods, which is actually like inherited from a great aunt, so it's been in the family for a while, and she is discovering some secrets and some family ties back there. So lots of intertwining themes and familial ties between these 3 timelines and between these 3 characters. This is definitely a heavy book, so you may think based on the cover that it's like cozy and heartwarming. It is not. It's definitely heavy and has some pretty strong trigger warnings, so definitely check that. Like I said, there's some domestic abuse and then other heavier topics to check out, but we also have a lot of beautiful nature elements. All of their powers are kind of like witchy, but they're wrapped up in nature, and so that plays a big part into the story, into the characters. For this book, just think like birds, insects, forests, trees, gardens, botanicals, florals, herbs, like all the things on the cover and more definitely present in this book, and so it very much feels like a book perfect for spring. Okay, so this book I read in the fall, and I think that could work for that time of year, but I think it's definitely better for the warmer months, and again, it could be spring or summer, but I wanted to throw it into this video. So I have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I mean, just look at that cover, very lush, very beautiful. We have a winged cat here, just like overgrown vines and flowers and all that. So that feels more springy than fall or winter to me. And so this is a cozy fantasy with a little bit of romance subplot. And this is also described as cottagecore, so similar feel to Wayward, except way less heavy and way more cozy and wholesome. And yeah, this is a lush cottagecore tale full of stolen spellbooks, unexpected friendships, sweet jams, and even sweeter love. So we follow Keela, who is a librarian in the great Library of Elysium, and she has a sentient spider plant who is like her best friend, and he helps her out. But there's a revolution that begins in the city, and the library starts to catch fire, so they have to leave, and she flees to the island where she grew up with her parents, although her parents have passed away, so it's just her and her plant. She goes back to the cottage that she grew up in, and she kind of fixes it up. Her handsome neighbor comes by to help with that, and then she has all these stolen spell books that she saved from the library, and so she is hiding them there, and she opens a jam shop that's kind of a disguise for the spell shop because she doesn't want to get caught. So we have that element, and then we just have a lot of beautiful nature descriptions. It's an island, so we have like mer horses and a lot of like sea-based creatures. We have unicorns and winged cats, like I said, and then a lot of just beautiful scenes outside and in the cottage. Very much a small town feel, very wholesome, very sweet. I didn't 100% connect with the romance all the time, and this is marketed as a romantasy, so I'd say just go into this knowing it's more of a fantasy, like a cozy fantasy with that romance element, but just not the main part of the book. It's just very whimsical and magical, super cozy. Highly recommend this for the springtime. Okay, this next one is a historical fiction / romance, and I don't really know why it feels like spring to me besides the cover, but I'm going with it. So this one is The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. I really love this book. It's been several years since I've read it, so another one that's kind of not super clear or fresh in my memory, but I do remember really loving it, and I loved the audiobook. I might refer to my notes a little bit for the synopsis here. I think of this one as The Notebook, but set in Tehran in the 1950s. It also goes into the present day, so it kind of spans a long span of time, and it follows this couple as they meet and then are separated and then meet again. So that's kind of where the notebook element comes into play. So this takes place in the 1950s in Tehran during a time of political upheaval. And Roya, the main character, she is a teenager and she goes to this neighborhood stationery shop. It's kind of a sanctuary for her. And the owner of the stationery shop introduces her to Bahman, another favorite customer of his, and they strike up a relationship. They have a love for poetry and they just connect over a lot of things. But then something happens a couple months later. There is upheaval in the town, like I mentioned, and they get separated. They go their separate ways. They never see each other. And so eventually Roya moves on. She moves to America and she marries another man. And then more than 60 years later, she ends up meeting Bahman again, and they are facing a lot of questions and wondering what happened when they didn't see each other, why they never reached out, all of that. So a very emotional, kind of tragic, but beautiful story. And I love the multiple different timelines and how it just spans these decades of time, and you get to follow these characters in their journey of life, but also their romance. I really loved the historical setting and getting to read a book that takes place in a different culture than my own. I definitely felt all the emotions while reading this and was very attached to the characters. And again, I don't know why this feels like spring, but I just want to recommend this book, and we have flowers on the cover, so we're going with that. Definitely recommend this one, especially if you're looking for a historical fiction that takes place in a different time and place than the typical European World War II novel. Okay, next up I have to show off my Jane Austen tome that I haven't showed in a while. So here's my big ol' Jane Austen book. So I'm just recommending Jane Austen in general. Honestly, I feel like Regency books in general feel very springy, just that sense of going to balls and the romance and beautiful dresses and all that. And who does Regency better than Jane Austen? Of course, Pride and Prejudice is like a classic recommendation, but Emma and Persuasion, Sense and Sensibility, there's so many good ones. I think those are actually the 4 main ones I've read, and I think any of those would be great for springtime. I definitely think starting with Pride and Prejudice is a good place to start if you've never read Jane Austen. And then another fun thing is you could watch the movies too if you like the stories and just soak up those beautiful Regency vibes. So yeah, I'm just recommending Jane Austen in general. That's pretty much it. And then one more recommendation. This is another one that doesn't necessarily have a ton of springy elements to me, but another one that I really think needs to be recommended more and that I think would work well for this time of year. So this is Lovely War by Julie Berry. I feel like this book is so underhyped. I think also if you like Divine Rivals that you would like this one. So this is a historical fiction. It is young adult, but it's done really well. So if you don't like young adult, don't be deterred by this. This takes place during, I think, both World War I and World War II, but it has a Greek mythology fantastical element to it. This little blurb here says, a sweeping, multi-layered romance set in the perilous days of World Wars I and II, where gods hold the fates and the hearts of 4 mortals in their hands. So we follow 4 different human characters, their lives, their romance, but the story is told through the perspective of Aphrodite because she's the goddess of love. And there's this whole like drama going on behind the scenes with all the Greek gods as they're commenting on these humans' lives, just different commentary about love in general. And so I thought that was a really interesting way to narrate the story. I also really enjoyed following the human characters. This one I definitely recommend listening to the audiobook. It has music, multicast narration, and it's just done really well. Just beautiful romances in this one, beautiful writing, beautiful atmosphere, and I just want more people to read this book. So pick this one up this spring if you're looking for a interesting and unique historical fiction with some fantastical elements. So those are my top recommendations for springtime. Now I'm going to quickly go through my TBR. And again, this is just kind of books I hope to get to, but I'm not wanting to stick to a very strict TBR. So these are books that if I pick them up, that'd be great, but I'm just keeping it open-ended. So one for sure that I do know I'll be reading is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And this is a classic. Obviously, I loved the movie when I saw it, but I haven't read the book. And I'll be buddy reading this with Cindy from Snacks and Stacks. I'm really excited to read this one. It's another classic, so I don't think I'm going to read the synopsis, but it seems like it's going to be a great one for springtime. Another one I want to read is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. This is the second book in the Cerulean Chronicles duology, I think. First book was The House in the Cerulean Sea. These books just feel, oh, we got a bookmark here. These books feel very spring and summery to me, so it feels like a good time to read it. I would love to finish a duology and feel accomplished. So yeah, excited to see where the second book goes. And then very different vibe here. Well, maybe not fully different, but a little bit. This is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Pawson. I was thinking this would be more like a October or, fall type book, but I was watching Lottie Smalley. I think that's her channel name. I'm so bad at remembering those, but I love her videos, and she was saying that this was actually really good for springtime. I enjoyed The 7-Year Slip by this author, and yeah, I want to read more of her books. I've had this one for a while, so this is a contemporary romance, but I think there's some supernatural elements. I think a lot of her books tend to do a little bit of like magical realism, so I'm interested to see how that plays out into this book. Next up, we have Blue Sisters by Coco Mellers. This is just literary fiction. Reminds me of Hello Beautiful, which you can't see on my shelf, but it follows 4 sisters. One of them has passed away, and the other 3 are dealing with the grief of that. I think it's just a family story following their complicated lives, and just a typical literary fiction where we have a little character study and all of that. So I'm excited to check out this author for the first time. Okay, this next one doesn't scream spring to me, but I have been feeling major FOMO with the new Hunger Games book release, Sunrise on the Reaping. I love the original trilogy and I want to read the new book, but I have not read this one yet. So The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I bought this like 3 or 4 years ago when I got back into reading, and I still haven't read it. I haven't heard like amazing things about this, so I've been a little hesitant, but I do want to read this and then read Sunrise on the Reaping hopefully soon after. So this is the prequel, I guess, that follows President Snow and his like villain origin story, I guess. And I'm not super excited to read about that, honestly, because he's a terrible character, but I am curious to see where she goes with this, and then really to read Haymitch's story, which is the new book. So hopefully I can read this and then move on to the new book. Okay, this next book I must read because I keep putting it on TBRs and I still haven't read it, but it feels great for this time of year. So this is Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek. This is a cozy fantasy, maybe? Every time, I don't know. I know it's fantasy. It's supposed to be like Beauty and the Beast and Studio Ghibli, and I love both of those things, so I like that. I'm not going to read the whole synopsis, but this feels like it could be good for spring, right? Maybe some cottagecore vibes, just really leaning into that word now. I hope to read this sometime soon. So those are the books from my physical TBR. I have just a couple from the library, and then that will be it. So this one was a recommendation from Ellen at Ellen Made Book Club. This is The Maiden by Kate Foster. Another kind of springy cover. She recommended this for me in an original tag that she created. I'll make sure to link her, and hopefully I'll remember to link that video. This one is a historical fiction. I believe it says it's set in Edinburgh, which I love. I know she knows that too. And it's set in 1679. And I think this is inspired by a real life woman and real life case. This says Lady Christian is arrested and charged with the murder of her lover. Only a year before she was newly married. What led her to risk everything for an affair? And does that make her guilty of murder? She wasn't the only woman in Forrester's life, and certainly not the only one who might have had cause to wish him dead. So yeah, it seems like she is accused of murdering her husband. This says it's a remarkable story with a feminist revisionist twist, giving a voice to women otherwise silenced by history. So very intrigued to check this out, and I only have it from the library for a short amount of time, so I need to get to it soon. And then I have 2 more that I have currently waiting for me in my Libby app, and I'm probably going to start this next one as an audiobook tomorrow because I just finished my current audiobook. And so this is Braiding Sweet. Why is that so hard to say? So this is Braiding Sweetgrass. Try to say that 3 times fast. I doubt you can do it. Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, I think. And this is a nonfiction, and I've heard that it's just beautiful as an audiobook. I think the author reads it herself, that it's very calming and soothing, and so I could use some of that in my life. The author is Indigenous, and she's a botanist, and this says, she embraces the notion that plants and animals are our oldest teachers. In Braiding Sweetgrass, Kimmerer brings these lenses of knowledge together to show that the awakening of a wider ecological consciousness requires the acknowledgement and celebration of our reciprocal relationship with the rest of the living world. That's all I know. I've heard really great reviews of this one, and I would love to read more books by Indigenous authors and nonfiction as well, so I'm interested to see what this one is like. And the last one is a fairly new release that I just absolutely love the cover for, and so that might be my favorite thing about it. I don't know, but the book itself sounds really interesting too. So this is Watermoon by Samantha Soto Yambao. Just look at that beautiful cover. I know the hardcover is like, you can take the dust jacket off and there's beautiful stuff on the inside, and you can make it origami or something. Just love that. And so this one says, a woman inherits a pawn shop where you can sell your regrets and then embarks on a magical journey when a charming young physicist wanders into the shop in this dreamlike and enchanting fantasy novel. This is another one that I've heard compared to Studio Ghibli, just very whimsical, magical, dreamlike, enchanting. That's what it says there. So I'm just repeating that. So there's a romance here, and I think they maybe go on some kind of quest through this world. That's all I know. I'm going in blind, but I do have the ebook waiting for me in my Libby, so I hope to get to that soon. And again, I'm gonna read other books, but I want to keep it open-ended. I probably will continue some of the series I've been reading, like The Naturals and Mistborn, An Ember in the Ashes, and probably others that I can't think of right now. But yeah, I really want to keep it more flexible this spring. So that's enough talking from me because my voice is struggling. I would love to know if you want to read any of these books this springtime, or what your spring recommendations are, and also what are some books on your spring TBR. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!